Hey guys, Modelling Weekly here, and welcome back to another one of my group build summary videos, featuring all of the incredible work that you guys have produced over a certain amount of time on my Discord server. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the results of the group build that followed the Favourites group build, which I've linked down below if you fancy checking that one out. For those of you that took part in the next group build, it of course means that today's video is on the subject of the Underappreciated Group Build, where we focused our efforts on subjects that often don't get the limelight in the modelling community when they definitely should. Subjects ranged from utility vehicles, trainers and test aircraft, all the way to wacky prototypes, so it should be a very fun video to go through. In true Modelling Weekly fashion, this video is incredibly late due to the group build ending right at the start of my university education, and since then I've not been able to catch up with it due to other video responsibilities. It did, however, never leave my to-do list, so here we are today. Apologies to all the participants that have had to wait all of this time. Without further ado, let's dive right in and take a look at these fantastic builds. As per usual for my group build summary videos, we'll split this video into 3 sections. First off, we'll take a look at the non-competition entries, of which there are only a couple for this group build, so this section will be quite brief. And then we'll take a look at the general competition entries in no particular order. And then finally, we'll showcase the winning competition entry along with the 2 runners-up, selected by myself and the moderation team over on my Discord server, consisting of Aidan, Aki and Aaron. With that said, let's have a look at these non-competition builds. As I just mentioned, there's only 2 builds in this category, the first of which being submitted by our very own community manager, Aidan. Taking the topic of underrepresented strongly to heart, he's built up this wonderful representation of MG Tallgeese from Gundam Wing, which I believe is a Bandai kit. Regardless of my ignorance, Aidan's build is absolutely fantastic. It's got that kind of realistic cartoon aesthetic to it, which is incredibly hard to pull off in plastic form, so hats off to him for that. The shading and variation is all spot on, as is the paintwork and decal work. All in all, it's a fantastic submission and marks a very strong start to this group build summary. The second of these 2 excellent submissions was a build by Spilskinanka, who I believe will be making a Modelling Weekly GB debut with this fantastic representation of the Reggiani RE 2005, a 1/72nd scale kit from RS Models. It's great to see some Italian Air Force recognition in this group build, as not only does it fit the bill perfectly, but I also personally think that Italian subjects deserve much more love than they currently get. There's such a wealth of super interesting subjects available, and it's such an untapped area in the modelling world. Anyway, ramblings aside, the RE 2005 that Spills has put together for us is a real gem, with lovely smooth paintwork and a relatively heavy yet thoughtfully restrained assortment of battle scars in the form of paintwork damage. I believe Spill's paintwork is also hand-painted, which is highly commendable, especially given the prevalence of the airbrush in today's modelling world. All in all, very good stuff here, and thank you so much for submitting. So, with that brief non-competition section completed, let's now take a look at the bulk of the competition entries. As I mentioned in the intro, this section will precede the top 3 builds judged by myself and my team, so they are all in no particular order up until then. You all did a fantastic job, so it was a very tough decision. Kicking this section off, we have a double submission from Bert the Burger, featuring lovely builds of the F111 Aardvark and the Dornier D017. Bert was our only double submitter in this group build, so I send out a special thanks to him for his superb effort. Taking a look at the Aardvark first, which is definitely an aircraft we don't see too often, it's immediately obvious that Bert has done a great job on this kit's paintwork and weathering. Rather interestingly, this particular Aardvark has been built and painted up as the F111K, a potential replacement to the TSR2 that never really came into fruition. Instead, the RAF opted for the Buccaneer and later the Tornado, so this is a pretty cool what-if scheme. Operating under the RAF during Desert Storm, these aircraft would have got absolutely filthy. And that definitely comes across in Bert's build, with exhaust stains, panel line streaking, and paint damage all in place. It really creates a fantastic overall effect. All the paintwork on this aircraft is also well executed, with crisp masking present around the nose cone. All in all, a fantastic submission there. Next up is Bert's Dornier 17, an arguably less obscure entry than the Aardvark, but good to see nonetheless. Especially in the Night Fighter scheme, which does add to the build's rarity. Unfortunately, I don't have too many pictures of the Dornier, however from what I can see it definitely stacks up to the Aardvark in terms of quality. Despite being an older ICM kit with raised panel lines, Bert has done a very respectable job putting it together cleanly and accurately, and the paintwork on the whole looks smooth and well applied. Overall, that's a great pair of submissions, and I thank Bert once again for his participation in this event. We now have a build from Dodo Smuggler 37, featuring the classic 1/72nd scale Airfix Vampire kit, one that I'm sure a lot of the veteran modelers among the community have encountered at one point or another. It's a timeless kit, and it's executed nicely in the case of Dodo's build. He's gone for the iconic New Zealand Air Force scheme, featuring those Kiwis in the middle of the RAF roundels, something that we don't see all too often, as most build their Vampire either in RAF colours or as a Swedish aircraft. This is a great build to see, and I thank Dodo very much for his submission. Sticking conveniently within the theme of vampires for this next build, we have the same 1/72nd scale Airfix kit, this time painted in RAF Dayglow colours, submitted by Marsh Milos. I have to say, I love the look of trainers in Dayglow schemes, but dealing with those Cartograph Dayglow decals is a whole different can of worms. I remember using them on my Provost a long while back, and they simply didn't conform no matter how much decal solution and time that I put into them. Maybe it was just me screwing it up, but Marshmallows seems to have the same view on them, as these markings seem to be sprayed on as far as I can tell, which is very wise indeed. The paintwork on this build is very interesting, and I actually really like the overall effect that the metallic shading provides. It really looks like a workhorse of an aircraft that has seen hundreds of RAF aircrews over the years. It's a fantastic submission overall, so thanks Marshmallows for your time and contribution. This next build strays away from the vampires, but remains within the theme of RAF trainers, as it is a wonderful little Scottish aviation bulldog, sent in by Ollie 5050. At first glance, I thought this aircraft was the original prop-driven version of the Provost, so that just goes to show that my knowledge of more niche RAF aircraft is severely limited. Produced by KP Models, this tiny aircraft model has been brought to life by Ollie, featuring that iconic RAF training scheme that aviation enthusiasts across the UK have come to love. White is of course one of the most difficult colours to paint with in modelling, regardless of airbrushing or not, so I commend Ollie for taking on this scheme. Great work, and thanks so much for the submission. Now, this subject really is one that I don't think I've ever seen in an MW group build up until now. It's a submarine. Specifically, it's a USN Seawolf class submarine, produced in 1:144 scale by Trumpeter, and presented to us today by Roadrunner 16124. Despite being in the relatively small 144 scale, this sub is an absolute whopper, measuring in at around 75 centimeters in length, so I have to respect Roadrunner for having the courage to take this kit on. I know I'd definitely have some problems painting that in my tiny spray booth. Roadrunner seems to have done a very nice job with this sub, featuring a clean and uniform finish across the whole model. Fantastic stuff overall, and many thanks for the submission. Up next is the first tank submission for this group build, or the first AFV in general for that matter. I'm going to butcher this name, so apologies, but I'll give it a shot. Scalemates, I believe, has submitted this absolutely fantastic T80B for us to have a look at, dressed up in a very crisp and calculated paint job. Now, at first glance, it may not seem like a very obscure submission, but that is until you realise it's mounted with a huge 152mm cannon for testing purposes. That's some serious firepower. As I mentioned, this kit has been finished in a lovely overall paint job, paired with some great streaking and weathering down the sides of the vehicle, creating an all-round great build. Many thanks to Scalemates for sending this one in. We've now got a submission from a bit of a Modelling Weekly group build regular, participating in all of the group builds up to this point. It is of course Spartacus Rye, also known as James, and he's built this peculiar but very sweet US Army tractor in 1/35th scale, making use of the Airfix kit in this case. In his standard fashion, James has done a great job at putting this build together with great accuracy, and the addition of that fantastic weathering on the exhaust stack is really very effective. The patchiness of it has really captured the essence of a rusty exhaust. On the whole, this is definitely one of the more underappreciated subject areas in the hobby, so our thanks goes out to James for submitting this build. Finally, in this main section of the competition builds, we have an entry from Typhoon 610, featuring the very striking and unique glossy black training scheme painted onto the Airfix Short Tucano T1 in 1/72nd scale. This is an absolutely classic RAF trainer, up there with the BAE Hawk, Folland Nat and Jet Provost, but not nearly as widely modelled. So we really appreciate Typhoon's submission in this group build. He's done a fantastic job at replicating this creative yet regimented scheme featured on the aircraft, and I commend his commitment to decaling, as there's a lot of them on this aircraft. Overall, a great submission, and a thanks goes out to Typhoon once again. So, with all of those fantastic builds covered, it leaves us with the last handful of submissions that have been chosen as the top 3 for this competition section. This really was a tricky decision to make, as the lineup in this group build was very strong. So don't feel disheartened for not making the top 3, as everyone has done fantastically on this one. So with that said, let's take a look at this last handful of commendable builds. Before we take a look at those 3, however, we do have a bit of a first for these group build summaries, in that we have a highly commended build that didn't quite place. However, it was so close to doing so that we felt bad excluding it. So without further ado, here is a highly commended build from Fencer, another group build regular on the channel. Taking the group build topic truly to heart, he's put forward this extremely unique depiction of the Dora Wings 148 TP63E King Cobra, an Aerocobra inspired aircraft that features a very unique secondary bubble top canopy towards the rear of the aircraft. I'm fairly certain that the concept never saw extended service or production, which further adds to the rarity of this aircraft. Fencer has pulled off the silver paint job of this aircraft to great effect, and the addition of the reserved yet effective weathering really adds to the overall appearance. The canopy masking, rigging and overall build quality are all fantastic as well, so all in all it's a unique and highly effective submission from Fencer. Thanks so much for your submission and very well done on the build. Now, time for the long-awaited top 3 build submission countdown. Without stalling for much longer, in 3rd place we have a fantastic submission of a very obscure German blueprint suborbital aircraft, submitted by Mixer. His build features the absolutely bizarre yet fascinating Silbervogel in 1/72nd scale, produced by Tacom, who are known for these more obscure subjects. Mixer has pulled off a fantastic result with his build here. The paint job is very smooth with well-masked demarcation lines, and the subtle yet highly effective weathering helps to highlight the kit's lovely surface details and panel lines. On top of this, all the decals seem to be in great order and well applied, and overall the appearance of the build is very eye-catching. Congratulations Mixer for this fantastic submission, which I'm sure everyone watching will agree is very worthy of the top 3. Coming up next in second place, we have an absolutely textbook execution of a Dornier 335, submitted by Pegas77. Pegas has made use of the Tamiya 148th kit for his fantastic entry, and he's really pulled it off to great effect. It really impressed all of us during the judging process, down to the precision execution of all of the steps involved, featuring an absolutely perfect masking job, subtle yet effective weathering, great decal application, and some fantastic colour modulation in the paint. One of the small details that I really liked about this build was the chipping. It's reserved yet effective, but importantly, Pegas has made use of a washed out green shade rather than going straight in for silver. What this has done is create a much more balanced and integrated effect, where surface damage is hinted towards. However, it doesn't appear as if the aircraft has flown through a hail of pebbles. Overall, it's a fantastic textbook demonstration of what a 335 can look like, so my congratulations go out to Pegas for his submission and placing. So here it is, the final submission that we'll be taking a look at in this video. As I mentioned earlier, this was a very tough call to make as the lineup in this group build was very strong. However, there did have to be a winner. So, placing first in the competition entries of this MW Underappreciated Group Build, we have a fantastic demonstration of ingenuity through scratch building creativity. It's a Folland Nat quite like no other. It is of course XP505 and it was submitted by Elliot Day. XP505 is a very unique Nat, modified with a series of probes and instruments designed to test the effects of turbulence on aircraft structures and performance, leading to a very unique overall appearance, and probably one of the most underappreciated subjects out there. Elliot has made use of the Airfix 1/72nd scale Nat kit for this build, along with an aftermarket set of decals and fully scratch-built modifications constructed using Milliput. Of all things, this is definitely a tricky medium to work with, especially when it comes to making precision antennae and probes, so Elliot's efforts are highly commendable. Alongside the kit modifications, Elliot has also pulled off a fantastic paint job on this build, creating that classic RAF 3-tone scheme to great effect. Overall, it was definitely an eye-catching submission, and a very interesting one at that. So in our eyes, it had to be top of the pile for the competition in this video's group build. Very well done, and congratulations Elliot for an impressive submission, and thank you so much for taking part. So that pretty much wraps up this MW Group Build Summary video. As I've mentioned earlier in the video, a huge thanks goes out to everyone who participated. It wouldn't be the same without your enthusiasm, so I really appreciate all of your commitment. If you are interested in participating in another group build, stay tuned on the Modelling Weekly Discord server linked below, where announcements will be made as the time comes. A massive thanks also goes out to my group build team over on Discord. Aiden, Aaron and Aki really make these group builds possible, as I wouldn't be able to handle them all by myself, so I really appreciate the input received from these great guys over there. I'd also like to take this moment to say a massive thanks to all of my Modelling Weekly channel members here on YouTube. Your support is absolutely invaluable and I can't thank you all enough. If you'd like to find out more about the perks available to members for a monthly £2 membership, please feel free to hit that link in the description to find out more. Thank you all so much yet again. This just leaves me to say a massive thanks to all of you for watching the video this far. I really hope you enjoyed it. Take care, keep on modelling, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!